Arc Raiders is a game that feels like it's thought of everything. A game where I keep taking a step back and saying, I can't believe you can actually do that. And so many of these things are just there for the players to find themselves. It's a game that encourages experimentation and exploration. So whether you are new to extraction shooters or have 10,000 hours in games like Tarkov, and whether you're new to Arc Raiders or have played in some of the previous tests, there are a lot of cool features about this game that can easily fly under the radar or just are easy to miss. So I wanted to compile a list of 10 things that Arc Raiders maybe doesn't tell you, but can have a drastic impact on your raids. Starting with number 1, there are more usable materials than you think. For example, the Arc power cells can be used to restore shield, and fabric can be used as a bandage. This is incredibly simple, but so many people didn't know about this. They aren't that great of heals, but if you're down bad, or if maybe you're on a free loadout or a budget run, these can be pretty game-changing and can help save a run. The power cells can be found on almost all of the Arc enemies that you face, and they heal your shield for about half of what one of the green shield rechargers does. Another great use case for this is to supplement the use of the green shield rechargers. Sometimes your shield is only slightly damaged, and you're kind of in that middle ground where you don't want to use one of your big shield rechargers on it, but you also don't really want to run around not at max HP. These power cells can be great for topping up as well. Fabric heals for about half of what a bandage does, and it does so pretty slowly, but once again, if you're in a pinch, a lot of things can be recycled into fabric. So if you just loot up a couple containers, you are pretty much never very far away from some fabric if you need some emergency heals. You can also eat a lot of the food items in the game as well. It took me forever to realize this, but things like agave, mushrooms, moss, or anything that you feel is edible probably is and will give you some small benefits to your HP or maybe even your stamina as well. So again, a lot of things that are usable, and this is all incredibly good to know, but it does lead us perfectly into our next point. Tip number 2, you can craft in raid. So many people didn't realize that you could craft some of the basic items in raid, and it is a game changer. Now, this is something that you'll have to unlock via the skill tree. It is in the survival tree, which I believe is on the right, and it's the 3rd skill in, so it requires 3 skill points to get, but this is well worth it. You can craft all of the basic heals, the adrenaline shot, shield rechargers, and basic bandages, and these are clutch to be able to craft in raid. The materials are extremely easy to find. They use things like chemicals, plastic parts, rubber, power cells, and fabric. All of these things, once again, just loot up pretty much any area and start recycling the items you find, and you are going to have a ton of these items. And this is great for if you're on a free kit run because they don't give you very many heals off of the start, or maybe you're in a raid and an encounter with a Rocketeer went south, or you got into a little bit more PvP than you expected. This is a great way to supplement and allow you to stay in those raids longer because you can craft more heals. You can also craft a couple of the grenades in raid as well, the light impact grenades and the little smoke grenades. This can be very helpful as well. Grenades and anything that does explosive damage, as we'll talk about in a little bit, can be incredibly effective against the Arc enemies. And the smoke grenades are great for just about everything, trying to hide from the Arc enemies or trying to push away from a PvP fight that you might not want to be in. There are also a couple of items that can only be crafted in raid, like the fruit mix and the agave juice, which also give you slight buffs to characters. And later on in the survivability tree, there's actually a skill that expands what you can craft in raid. The in-raid crafting is a part of the game's push to give you options on how not only to play the game, but also on how to react to the game. A lot of times it can feel like one bad run-in with the Arc, or like we said, a PvP fight just completely drains your meds, and then you feel like you have to get out of the raid because you don't want to keep going around without any meds. This allows you the freedom to just farm up a couple materials, craft some more meds, and still be able to go do whatever you wanted to do that raid. I highly recommend you use some skill points to get this ASAP. And speaking of skill points, that brings us to our next tip. Tip number 3, the skill tree is extremely important. There is obviously a lot here, so don't feel like you have to memorize every single one, but taking the time to at least look through everything and form some sort of loose plan will help you not waste points early on. I'm sure that we're going to see several builds or build guides that end up emerging that cater to specific playstyles, and I'm actually excited to see what people do for those. But since we don't know how many levels there are or what the max amount of skill points you can get is, it's worth looking things over and picking a few things early that you know you're going to want so that you can put some of those early points into them. They've done a pretty good job at balancing out the 3 trees. There are genuinely skills or things in each of the trees that I want, which is going to make it hard for me to kind of nail it down. But I am personally one that loves looting and taking out as many items as possible, so I'm going to want to eventually spec into helping with being over encumbered. I'll probably go for crafting first, then go up the middle tree and put a bunch of points into expanding my stamina, and then maybe going back to the survivability tree, and then getting some of the things that help increase the amount of weight I can carry. Moving on to tip number 4, this is respect the arc. The faster that you learn this, the faster you will start surviving more and more raids in Arc Raiders. The devs of this game have made it very clear that the PvE side of this game is a core part of its identity. This is going to be a sticking point for a lot of people because early on you will die a lot to the arc and there will be some frustrating moments. But I am here to tell you that you will be so much more successful if you treat the arc like a puzzle to solve and not like a wall to break down. The arc can be hard and they can be overwhelming, but they are also incredibly intuitive and they all have weaknesses. Learning things like how they telegraph their attacks so that you can dodge roll out of the way and not take any damage. Learning that the Hornets' back 2 propellers can be taken out much easier because they're not armored. Learning that all of the quadcopters go down the fastest if you shoot 2 of their propellers out and let them crash, as opposed to shooting them head on. It's really important to know that, like we said before, explosive damage is very effective against all of the arc. So those light impact grenades are a very cheap and easy way to get an advantage on the arc. The sticky grenades, the heavy fuse grenades, or any sort of explosive you can get your hands on as you kind of go up in tier are going to be better and better, all the way up to the purple grenade, which is the wolf pack, which is absolutely insane against the arc. It literally, I don't even think does any damage against players, but this is almost a one tap to a rocketeer or a leaper even. The point is, if you take the time and learn how the arc move, how they attack, and how to bring them down the easiest, you will save time, ammo, you'll save meds, and you'll start surviving way more raids. And you can even start creating strategies for how to use the arc to your advantage in PvP fights. Moving on to tip number 5, more items in this game make you money than you think. There is a lot of loot in Arc Raiders, and one of the categories of loot is just valuables. They have the little diamond in the bottom right-hand corner. These things are great to extract with because you can sell them and you can make a bunch of money. But sometimes a stack of materials or parts that you find in raid can actually be worth more since they stack and you might find more of them. An example of this is items like the dartboard or the film reel are a couple of valuables that sell for 2,000 coin a piece when you get them out of a raid. But Hornet drivers also sell for 2,000 a piece when you get them out of a raid. A lot of the valuables in the raid do stack as well, but it's probably less likely that you're going to find 2 or 3 dartboards to stack, but you are definitely going to run into 2, 3, 4, or 5 Hornets as you play out your raid. So there are some times where dropping a valuable item and then picking up or collecting throughout a raid a stack of something you know you're going to find more often can get you a lot more money per slot in your backpack. Now, some of the valuables like the snow globe or Lance's mixtape sell for up to 10,000 per slot, so this is definitely not a hard and fast rule. Just be on the lookout when you're getting out of raids for how much some of the materials or resources sell for and see if maybe you can stack those up and they might have a higher value per slot in your backpack than a couple of the valuables. Tip number 6 is get to know the utility in this game. This is everything. This is one of the most important parts of Arc Raiders. There are a lot of items that go in those utility slots in your augments, and almost all of them can have an insane practical value in your raids. Like we talked about before, grenades can be huge against the arc enemies and turn the tide of a fight in your favor, but they're also great for getting really aggressive in PvP. If you know there's a team on a corner and they're just kind of third person peeking you, waiting for you to move, if you just lob a bunch of grenades up on that corner, it's going to push them off and create some space for you to get away or maybe make a push. The smoke grenades in this game are some of the best I've ever seen in a shooter game, which once again can be used defensively to hide from arc or get away from a PvP fight, but can also be used offensively, throwing a smoke up on a corner, which means they can't third person peek you anymore and you can push and close some distance. Zip lines are another tool that help you traverse the map however you want, whether you're trying to close distance on a fight or get out of a situation you don't want to be in anymore. The zip lines can help you travel huge distances very quickly. And then there's things like the barricade kit, which is actually really good deployable cover. Lure grenades can help pull arc away from you or even pull them towards your enemies depending on where you throw them. Tagging grenades can help you overcome the whole third person peek thing because it can literally show you where the enemies are around a corner. Even things like mines can be way better than you think, throwing a mine at the top of a zip line or an alarm clock so that you can know if a team is pushing up behind you. How players utilize and combine the utility in this game will be a huge part of the skill gap. This is incredibly important for PvP and for PvE. Now, tip number 7, since we're talking about utility, is actually a lot of the arc parts can also be used as explosives. This is something that is really easy to miss, since when you kill an enemy or loot a container, most of the time you just think that is a resource, but a lot of those things actually have additional utility. For example, if you kill a fireball, the little balls that run around and spit fire at you, you can pull the fireball burner, which is something that can be thrown and is like a small Molotov cocktail. It blows up and just creates fire. The Hornet and Wasp drivers that you pull out of those respective arc can be thrown. They don't explode on impact, but when you throw them, you can shoot them and they will explode. And this works all the way up to some of the higher tier enemies as well. All right. For example, the Leaper. The Leaper pulse unit can be thrown to create a small version of that attack that it uses. I think the description is like creates a small singularity event or something like that. So while using these things as explosives might not be the most practical use for them, or might not be the most practical way to use explosives, it is good to know because it is another way that the game allows you to use the environment around you to get out of a sticky situation. Maybe you're out of grenades, but you have a stack of Hornet drivers that you were planning on selling. Well, if you need to, now you can start throwing them, shooting them, and blowing them up, and that might help you make it out of a situation. Tip number 8 is recycle everything. Almost everything in this game is needed in some way or another, and recycling allows you to take something that maybe you don't need right now and break it down into less rare components that you might need. If you're looking for common items for the hideout, upgrades, or even some of the crafts, recycling everything you come in contact with is a great way to farm these lower tier materials fast. This can also help with inventory management while you're in raid, allowing you to take more stuff out. For example, if your backpack is full and you find another item that you want, instead of dropping something on the ground so that you can pick this thing up, maybe recycle that thing before you drop it. Because if in your backpack you have a stack of some of these lower materials like rubber parts or metal spare parts, if that thing you were going to throw on the ground recycles into rubber parts and metal spare parts, well, now those parts will just go into those stacks, and now you've freed up a cell to pick up that new thing that you want. This can also help with weight management as well while you're in raids. Sometimes an item weighs more than the components that it recycles into. So if you're trying to shave off a little bit of weight so that you aren't over encumbered, try recycling a few things before dropping them on the ground and see if that does the trick. It's also important to note that some things recycle for more or different parts when you're out of raid versus recycling them in raid. Technically, recycling in raid is called salvaging, and then recycling out of raid is called recycling, but I just use recycling for both. But a good example of this is green guns. Let's take an Anvil 1 for example. When you salvage an Anvil 1 by recycling it in raid, it's going to give you 2 simple gun parts. If you extract that gun and then recycle it back when you're in your stash, it's going to give you 2 simple gun parts and 2 mechanical components, which is very nice because mechanical components are necessary for repairing other green guns that you might have. And this trend goes up with blue guns, even some of the purple guns, and even some of the materials as well, such as like purple mats or even some of the more rare blue ones can recycle for more when you're out of raid versus salvaging them when you're in raid. Ultimately, the point here is that try to keep recycling top of mind. Before you drop something or sell something, just remember that there could be some other value or utility in recycling it. Moving on to tip number 9, weapon upgrades can be huge. A lot of people still didn't know that you can upgrade your guns or how to spot when a gun is upgraded. The number in the bottom right corner tells you what level a gun is, and you can upgrade guns in the gunsmith once you have that installed in the hideout. All guns can be upgraded from level 1 up to level 4, and the effects that upgrading can have on a gun can be extremely impactful. The Rattler, for example, when upgraded to level 4, it goes from a 10-round mag to a 22-round mag, so over a 100% increase. The Pharaoh can get up to a 39% reduced reload time. The Anvil can get up to a 75% increased fire rate. Guns can get better shot dispersion, faster reload times, and every time a gun is upgraded, it also increases its durability, meaning you can use them longer. These upgrades can then be paired with all of the myriad of attachments in game of different rarities that do different things and really allow you to curate your weapon to your playstyle. So definitely don't write off a gun that you don't like until you see how it upgrades. The Rattler is a great example of this. That magazine capacity early on is so brutal, but the gun really opens up once it's upgraded some. And it's important to note that higher level guns will give you more materials when recycled out of raid. So if you maybe have a Rattler run as a backup and you kill somebody with a Rattler 3, swap that out because even if you plan on selling or recycling it, you're going to get more value with the higher tier guns. And closing out this list with tip number 10, you can extract while you are downed. This is something that, once again, a lot of people overlook just because it doesn't feel intuitive. It feels like normally in a game when you die, you're dead, and that kind of just sucks for you. But you can actually crawl up and hit the button to call the elevator, and hit the button inside to initiate the extract, all while you are in the down but not out state. This can be great for solos because maybe right at the extract an arc got you, knocked you out, and instead of your whole run being gone, you can still take the elevator and get out. And it's also really nice in squads or in just PvP in general. The amount of times I've been downed right at the extract by a team that's far away and we were able to just crawl in, or maybe me and somebody traded right in the extract when we were fighting and all of a sudden we can both take it together. It is a really cool way to give you a little bit of agency right there at the end before you die, and a good way to salvage a couple runs. So remember, you can extract even when you are downed.
Wait, I might actually extract.
And so that's pretty much it. Those are 10 things that arc raiders might not tell you outright, but can have a huge impact on your raids. I hope these were helpful. If you're new to Arc Raiders and you plan on playing more, definitely hop in our Discord, which is going to be linked down below. We've got looking for group channels, places for you to ask questions. It's going to be a great community there. Also, if you like this content, I plan on covering this game really extensively future. Maybe drop a like or subscribe to the channel. I also stream this game pretty much every day on Twitch and here on YouTube. All these links will be down below as well. Thank you again for stopping by, and I will definitely see y'all on the next one.